Okay, the commission is back in session. Reporting on our executive session, I want to read the following statement. We have received an oral indication from Sacramento Cable Television of a possible settlement proposal relating to all of SCT's claims against the commission. We've also received some indication that the proposals may be acceptable to all of the grantees. Your commission has instructed staff to meet with SCT representatives and attempt to document a suitable agreement reflecting a possible settlement and report back to this commission on November 5 as to the progress of this documentation and of this discussion. So it seems as though there is a possibility that we could work this out, and we're instructing staff to meet with SCT and to report back to us on November 5. That was the item of the closed session. We'll then proceed then with the agenda and go to item 2. And that is a 1988 government programming plan. Bob?
Yes, this is a routine matter. Our contract or franchise with SCT requires that we submit a grant application for 1988. This grant application is required under our government programming agreement. It does not bind the commission at this point. After we get the funds and they're incorporated in our budget, then you'll make the final adjustments. Basically, the grant application calls for continuation of our current activities and then the addition of a program in the last 6 months, which is a program surrounding significant items that are presented to each of the legislative meetings. I would recommend approval since you have an opportunity to re-review the work program. There's nothing.
Move to adopt the resolution.
I'll second that.
And a motion from Johnson, second by Roby. Are there any questions, commissioners? I don't have a request to speak on item 2, so I'll ask for the clerk to call the roll.
Smallman? Collin?
Yes.
Roby? Aye. Johnson?
Yes.
Costanz?
Aye.
Can I ask one question about that item regarding the flexibility that's in that schedule? If you have a, for instance, a group that I'm working with is a Community Energy Review Committee, which has now been promised funding through both SMUD and PG&E, and there was some discussion among that group as trying to have some of the interim hearings on that group televised. Is there enough flexibility in that programming schedule to accommodate requests like that come from?
Yes, conceptually, yes, there is. We need to know, as you do with LAFCO, what the specific times are, and then, of course, we bring it to the commission for approval, but absolutely.
Okay, going on to item 3, this is a noticed public hearing. SCT requests that it is now commercially impractical to fulfill its franchise commitments.
Yes, I understand that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Attorney Moorhead is representing Sacramento Cable Television, and he has informed me, in view of the chair's announcement, that they would be requesting a continuance of this meeting.
If that's the case,
Do we have a date on that?
I think, John, I do have a form filled out, so please address the commission.
Mr. Chairman, my name is John Moorhead, and I represent SCT. In light of the report back date of November 5th, we would request that the proceeding and not the hearing with regard to commercial impracticability be deferred. I would ask that perhaps it be deferred to a date subsequent to November 5th, inasmuch as that is the report back date of the progress of negotiations, and we wouldn't want to have, we'd like to know whether we are or not going with that proceeding.
So you want to have a specific date you want to continue to?
Or just, it does not need to be specific as long as it would be open-ended, but beyond, clearly not to be on the 5th.
Well, move to continue item 3 beyond November 5th, is the date subsequent.
Does staff
Brent might have a suggestion, or Bob, on a date.
I think that there'd be no difficulty if the commission wished to continue the matter to the December meeting, with the proviso that I've discussed with Attorney Moorhead, that SCT would, in consideration of that continuance, submit any evidence that they wish to submit for that consideration at that time, at least 5 days in advance of the hearing, and that they give the chair some estimate of the amount of time that will be required at that time. If it's a reasonable length of time, we would be well within the 120-day statutory period within which we must conclude these proceedings. My recollection is that their request was filed on or about August 21, so we would have till approximately a few days before Christmas to complete the proceedings. So if we continued it to November, and I believe that date would be November 5, strike that, December.
December 3 is the
December 3,
our probable meeting in December.
we would have ample time to conclude the
Our probable meeting. I mean, that's the next, if we're meeting monthly, our next meeting, I think, would be December 3, if I look at this calendar properly.
The only other thing I would suggest is if we do get into some sort of, if you think we're getting into some sort of bind in terms of timing, then we have the ability within the commission to set hearings in between the regularly scheduled hearings.
Well, I will tell you that the problem is that we get to December 3 and we're getting into the holiday period. It's commonly done. I'm sure Attorney Moorhead's never been asked to waive time before, but maybe he'd like to waive the 120-day limitation upon that
Which is
on
normal.
behalf of his client, which would allow us, if we do get in that bind around the holidays, to schedule for December 3 and still have availability.
Maybe we better have that kind of a commitment today before we move forward into this.
I think that's a reasonable request.
Yeah.
We would waive the 120-day requirement. Let me, if I could just say one other thing for the record. By requesting the deferral, and we are not waiving the position we have taken that I took last Friday with the council, and it is reflected in our letter that we do not deem it appropriate to have a public evidentiary hearing. I understand Mr. Blair's position with regard to producing evidence 5 days before, and I can make no commitment at this time on that in light of our position that it is not an evidentiary hearing. But I assume that Mr. Chairman and the Commission understand our position on that.
So you are agreeing, excuse me, I don't understand.
But
Are
then
you-
we're concurring, we're both concurring. You're going to stick with your position, we're going to stick with Brent's. So.
Right,
Okay,
that's
it's on
without
record.
waiver to either side on that, but we will waive the time limitations in light of the negotiating process. We have absolutely no problem with that.
Mr. Chairman, I think it'd be appropriate for the chair to obtain an estimate of the time that'd be consumed. I've heard estimates by the grapevine of up to 7 days, and I'd like to know what to plan on December 3.
Any suggestions, John?
I think it would probably be less than 1 day, Mr. Chairman, for any oral presentation.
Good, less than 12 hours, how many hours in a day? All right, well,
A
whatever.
business day, Mr. Chairman.
Less than 4
Business
hours.
day? I mean, are you talking about 8 hours or our business day,
I
which is
think
about
both
12?
periods, I think both matters, commercial practicability as well as default, could be handled expeditiously in 4 hours
Sure.
by oral
fine,
presentation. Any documentation, be it characterized as evidence or simply record, for the most part, is already reposing in your files. And that is what we would be referring to in oral argument. I do not envision a lengthy evidentiary presentation on either issue. The issues of change in law and change in circumstances are well known to all.
So that can be presented to us in writing prior to the hearing. You have no problem with that?
No.
Okay, let the motion include all the additional
Okay, I have a motion from Johnson relating to the evidence in writing prior to the hearing and a time less than half a day and potential waiver of the 120 days as part of the motion. Do I have a second to the motion?
Yes.
I have a second from Colin. I'm sorry, John, was there anything else that you
No,
wanted
that is
to
it.
address
Thank
us
you.
on this item?
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Any questions of the Commissioner?
Mr. Chairman, I want to clarify the motion. I think the chair said potential waiver of the 120 days. I understood Attorney Moore had to make an actual
He did
waiver.
waive
It's
it.
a waiver of 20
Waive
days.
the 120 days.
So agreed.
It's
Thank
agreed
you.
that I added an adverb in there, that we have a waiver. Okay, any other questions?
No question.
All right, would you call the roll, Diane, on that motion, please?
Smallman? Colin?
Yes.
Roby? Aye. Johnson?
Yes.
Castanis?
Aye. All right, then we're to item 4, and that is a notice of public default hearing, failure of Sacramento Cable Television to provide second community use studio due August 22nd.
Mr. Chairman, as a matter of law, that hearing should trail the previous hearing on commercial impracticability. I'd urge the Commission on its own motion to continue the hearing to the same date and time as the hearing on commercial impracticability.
I would so move.
Second.
We don't have a date specific on that continuance.
Yeah,
Same date as the 625 hearing, which would be December.
Are there any other questions?
No question.
Today.
I do have requests to speak on items 3 and 4, and we're item 4 for Mr. Davis. Did you wish to address this, Dick? You do have 4 minutes.
I just submitted that form as a matter of habit.
That happens hard to break. Is there any, Mr. Moorhead, do you want to speak to that? Apparently there are none. No other questions by the Commission? No. We have a motion, well, it is a continuance, and we do have a motion made by Collins, seconded by Smallman. Call a roll.
Smallman? Fletcher? Collin?
Yes.
Roby?
Aye.
Johnson?
Yes.
Costanis?
Aye. The last item is public opportunity to discuss matters that are not on the agenda but within the Commission's jurisdiction. Are there any by the Commission? None. Anyone in the audience? I have one question of staff. I think, Bob, I remember requesting PAC West to appear before the Commission to address us.
Yes, a letter was sent. They did agree. However, I did not agenda either PAC West or Cable Marical or Sacramento Cable at this particular hearing because I was under the impression that the 2 hearings would consume all day. So I excused both companies from making those presentations. So if they're not here, it's entirely my fault.
Just by chance, is anyone from Pacific West here?
Not by chance.
Yeah, but it needs to be made clear that we do expect in
It
the
has been,
future.
and Mr.
that-
Hamp
Will be on the
yeah,
agenda.
It will be on the agenda.
Yes.
We do expect them to come and to
Yeah.
perform.
But yeah.
At this point, nothing is there. Okay, any other questions? Any other discussion items?
None.
We will meet again then in public session on November 5. Meeting's adjourned.
Good work, Chairman.